Fine. Hello, this is a video for class 4F, and it's about John Milton and his masterpiece, which is Paradise Lost, More Than Paradise Regained, and some of his poetry, some of his sonnets, especially on his blindness, which is the best one, I think, and we will read. So, who is John Milton? Fine. John Milton, I will put a map for you. John Milton lived in the period of the Puritan revolution in Britain. It was the Puritan age. He was a man who had studied a lot, and he could speak Italian and French. He even knew a lot of important scientists. For instance, he was acquainted to Galileo Galilei, and that was important for him because he got to know a lot of elements which are not part just of poetry or culture, but also of science. And he was very active in the debate of the time. You should remember, keep in mind at least that Cromwell, during the Cromwell age, it was the only moment in the history of Britain where they did not have a king. There was government which was not a king, and there had been a civil war, a civil war, and Cromwell had led the Puritans, and they had won, and King Charles had to go away. He had to refugee in the continent, into the continent. Then he was Cromwell died in 1658, and the king came back. The monarchy was restored, and Milton was forced to hide, and he was persecuted actually because he had been a supporter of Cromwell, though he was not completely he did not share completely the ideas of Cromwell in total, all the ideas. He got influenced by him a lot. His works can be divided into three periods, and the first one is the period of Italian works. For instance, we have works like l'Allegro, il Penseroso, but the most important works are the ones of the third period, not even in the second period, when he wrote a lot of pamphlets and political works. In the third period, he wrote what are remembered as his masterpieces, and the best one, which is Paradise Lost, and then Paradise Regained as well, and many other sonnets. Paradise Lost is obviously based on the story of the Bible. So the story of Adam and Eve, why they lost the paradise, their situation, because they disobeyed the rules in heaven, and they are considered and watched through eyes which are very close to them as human beings. Even the angels, which become devils, so the evil elements, are considered and watched in a moral way, but always taking care of the human elements. Even Satan and all the other angels following Satan are considered as people who disobey and so take their own way, who want to take their own way and not to be essentially to obey and follow some rules. So as rebels, rebellion, however, considered as something positive, good, because in rebellion there is a personal freedom. You affirm personal freedom. So they are not considered in the bad light and bad view that we are used to have in all past works or in the works of Middle Age. They are very different. Their disobedience leads to sin, to punishment, and to being taken away from heaven, and so being far from God forever, which is a very very bad punishment. I mean, very harsh, because they have no way to resume, to go back to the previous situation. But it's not considered in such a bad way, because they have the possibility, the chance to choose. And what is important is the choice they made. They just decided to choose. Such angels are persons, are elements who chose. They chose what to do. In some verses, for instance, we can find a real refuse by Satan, a refusal to accept the hierarchy. The paradise is organized in a hierarchical way, and on top there is God, and then there are the angels God chooses, and so everything has a hierarchical way of being. Just like monarchy, we have a hierarchical way of staying. Well, such angels refuse to live in respecting such a hierarchy, and they prefer to finish down in the black elements of the hell, and to live there and to stay there and to be free there. They prefer it than staying in society which is organized by somebody else, and they have to obey cosmic and rules. They will have to accept forever and ever. Sorry, but my cat is a bit so stop. So it's Saturn. The figure of Saturn has always been very fascinating in Milton's work. So very fascinating in his poem. At first, it was not, because we know about him, because we are aware of how bad the rebellion he makes is. But little by little, when we read about him and when we read his lines, the lines written by Milton, we enter the psychology of this angel, which becomes an evil element, a devil, and is not considered any longer so bad. It's an imposing figure, and the vanity and the immorality are the main elements. However, is imponent, and the more important character in the poem, even more powerful, more important than God himself, or than the man, or than any of the angels, because he has a character, and he never gives up, never gives up. That's what is important. As to the other traits, the vocabulary is quite archaic, and in the speech we find, especially in Saturn's speech, which I hope we will have time to read in our book, is we need to be very to pay attention to all the words, because it still uses archaic words which belong to a period which is even previous or to the Shakespearean period, and it is full of complex grammatical elements, of similes, and sometimes there are roundabouts, and you have to read all the parts, all the speeches, in order to have to focus on it, to have the meaning very clear, even because of the rhyme scheme, which is not always respected. And after that, after writing Paradise Lost and Paradise Regained, he was becoming blind. Little by little, he lost his sight, and one of his most important and one of his best poem is the one he writes about himself and about the fact that he has lost his sight. and it is one of is very sympathetic and very very sad to listen. We are listening to this man blaming himself and being obsessed at the thought that he will never ever have his sight again. And however, he says, I will finish my days in this way, but I am not unhappy. I accept it as what God gave me, because that's my destiny.